We're back. Okay. We're back into game number 2 out of what will be 3 games.
So you're sure of that? Is
I'm
that what your dog said
manifesting it.
also?
No. I should have asked him, honestly. I'm trying to manifest it. Okay.
Okay.
Because as exciting as sweeps are, we know that when it comes down to the semifinals, these teams are much closer than it seems sometimes on paper, and that the expectation should be full series. However, this is going to be a game as we go into match point where Team Pending is going to need to pick things up, because all it requires is one more win coming out of Fear for them to take it home in a sweep.
That's right, and it would be our second 2-0 of the night, matching what 100 Next did in our first series. But we'll see. Team Pending, as we go into draft of our second game of the series, are they going to be able to change things up? Are they going to be able to adapt? Because they got beat pretty handedly in that first game, if we're being honest, Jolly. So
yeah,
what's the change going to look like? Analyst Desk had some thoughts. Things like remove Senna, especially because one, they will first pick Senna on the side of Cincinnati Fear, as we saw in game 1. Also, the fact that TBA also chose to stay on the red side.
They did. They chose to stay on the red, yeah. So they're foregoing that first pick. Yes, they have the opportunity for counterability here, which clearly that that is something that they want to take for themselves. But not only that, the desk also mentioned Talia. You cannot give Talia that much space. It's really just not something that you can do. And it did feel really unfortunate when we're coming from the side here of Kitsuo on that Wukong. It was a pretty rough game. Right off the bat, you had Kitsuo go in. We had the red buff steal, manages to get out totally fine, A-okay. It seemed really, really promising. And also, a lot of these early objectives went over to Team Pending. The first couple of dragons were Team Pending. Shelly and Kelly. The first tower that was taken down was Team Pending. Aside from, First Blood that went over to Trickster early on, it seemed like all of these things that were kind of the boxes that needed to be ticked for the side of Team Pending were ticked, but they weren't able to transition that into the fighting stage of the game.
And part of it is because of how their comps end up interacting with each other. No range, and a lot of long extended fights. So going into the mid game, especially with the fact that Kitsuo was getting out farmed past a certain point, it was really easy for Trickster to just continue snowballing, picking up so many kills. And it was also Blaze, not just Trickster, showing us really big performances again. A player who, in previous PGCQs in the past, in spring, thought, just Syndra, just LeBlanc. And then once Ahri was reworked and became good, just those 3 champions.
Yeah.
Syndra and LeBlanc aren't as good. Ahri's fallen out of favor. He brings up the Yone and plays really well.
And it was a counter pick, too, if I'm not mistaken, for that one up into the Swain. If you've got the opportunity to take somebody like Yone, you cannot assume that Blaze is restricted in his picks, right? Yes, he does have a particular style that he seems to really excel at, but clearly that has been opened up, and it adjusts I'm whacking my microphone. It adjusts really well with the meta, and you can't really necessarily say that about a lot of players where it's like, oh, they're so good on these champs that happen to be in the meta, and they adjust so well to where those top three champions that you were just talking about, Blaze keeping in his pocket, those are interchangeable, right? They're cards that he can just pick and choose and say, all right, these are the ones that are going in today. And we also saw that given the fact that we had a lot of focus from the bans in the early part of the game towards the jungle on the top side, right? So something there needs to kind of change if they want to stop Fear from kind of running it back like they did in game number 1.
Especially because you can't really ban out Dragoon. If you want to ban Gwen and Darius, I think that's fine. I understand. But throwing that much at him in the top lane clearly left so many things open on every other part of the map. And Cincinnati Fear were, happy to take advantage of that one, ending up with a really strong draft that we saw they managed to pull off during game 1. So now as we go into game 2, again, sides haven't changed. It's still TBA on red, Cincinnati Fear on blue. Are they going to let things like Senna and the Talia go through? That's going to be the big question.
They would have to give up bans like we saw Gwen, Lilia, and Darius. And the Gwen and the Darius you talked about, those are solid, right? When it comes to Dragoon, if you're not banning the Darius, you're playing the game wrong. He was literally a Darius 1 trick. This guy has excelled, and whether or not the champion is in the meta, he absolutely can make it work, and it's such an aggressive pick that it works with the rest of the composition, specifically Trickster and Blaze here on this team. They just pick 3 aggro picks towards the top, and they're like, all right, bottom lane, have fun, do what you do, keep up the pressure, you'll be safe enough.
Right, so now We're seeing some of the usual suspects in terms of bans. Rengar, I'm sure we'll see the Darius taken away, or maybe the Gwen from the top side. It's just that third pick. What is it going to end up being? Are you going to take away other strong options here? Are you going to try and remove those picks we were highlighting in game one? I think we could honestly see what we've seen some teams do recently is that if you first pick something like Senna, you just go for the Jinx Tahm Kench on the other side too.
I do like that. We also, I mean, we know how much Sketch loves Jinx. That's one that you can definitely take away. That has been, honestly, as long as I've been watching Sketch, that has always been a staple. I think of Sketch and I think of just a pop-off Jinx. Also, these global ultimates have been really efficient. We were talking about the Gangplank, the Cannon Barrage, we're talking about the Dawning Shadow as well that was coming out of Senna. So having kind of these reciprocating global ultimates is certainly something that will help both of these teams and that they're probably going to be looking for. Again, speed, movement speed, mobility is where they're focusing. In TBA, it looks like they're going to stick with the same three. Darius should probably be the one that rounds out this pick, but they have, once again, banned out that Lilia. They do not want to see Trickster on somebody that can do that much damage from that far away.
Yeah, and that third pick, like you said, likely going to be the Darius, and if so, that means TBA, they haven't really changed anything, at least in the first rotation, so either they are adapting on the fly, they're expecting the Senna first pick to come through if that's not banned away, because I'm pretty sure Dragoon has said also, if Darius is up, he'll blind it, whatever.
Yep.
Like, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, he does not care about the matchup, and that's honestly something to expect from one Trix, and it's actually going to be the Talia. So that is something that Des suggested. That is something that we suggested. You cannot give that much space, that much room, that much utility to a player like Trickster because he can be absolutely everywhere. And when you get to the point where Kitsuo, who is an amazing jungler, gets more than doubled in CS in the first like 15-20 minutes of the game, there's almost no recovery from that. And again, that was with the successful invade from Kitsuo in the first 5 minutes, and still Trickster didn't get shut down until the later parts of the game.
It's true. So 2 AP junglers banned, targeted at Trickster, and the Senna still up and available. Fear will take that one away. Are TBA going to go for something completely different? Are they going to prioritize the Kalista? Are they going to go for a Jinx Tahm Kench angle here? Because we haven't really seen something like Jinx come out from Masu, and it's looking like TBA might be interested in running it back. The question ends up being, though, what are they picking on 3? Are they going to go for the Renata again? Because as Veteran pointed out, you didn't have as much all-in. You weren't able to shut the Senna down early and really allow Masu to accelerate.
And Chukis did a really good job. Chukis didn't actually end up going down. I think Chukis only had 1 or 2 deaths towards the end of that game, which, considering how much pressure Fear had, is really exceptionally played. And there was that later game impact, but we saw that every single lane on the side of Fear was pressured into TBA in the early parts of the game. That could have been opportunities for Kitsuo to find successful ganks, but he didn't, unfortunately. And he got set so far back that you got to think, if they're picking a first pick Kalista, the composition needs to focus much more around that Kalista than it did in game number 1.
And I'm wondering, too, whether or not we're going to see this support actually picked out. Because if not, Fear are going to just start pinching out supports in the second rotation of bans. But it's tough because if they go for support, Robbie Bob likely going to see more bans. They're going to remove something like the Corki. I think, honestly, TBA find themselves in a pretty tough spot, especially with the Darius actually coming through. We said it, Dragoon, he'll take it blind. Does not care. And TBA, oh my god, it's a salty run back.
It is a salty run back. It's the same side. It's, I mean, 2 out of 3 of the same exact picks here coming out of Fear. And these 2 picks were amazing, right? I mean, Plux on this Tahm Kench was solidifying the kills early on for Fear, and then later on ensuring that the squishy champions that they did not want to hand bounties over for were saved from the fights. You got so much additional engage on top of that it works perfectly with the addition of the Darius here. Again, if you're not banning Darius from Dragoon, you're not playing the game right. This is something that he waits for, and that's why they are more than okay with saying, all right, our third pick before the second ban phase, Darius is open, let's do it, let's lock it.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too if we're going to see, okay, so it is the Yone takeaway, more targeted at Blaze's champion pool. And the Ahri, I think, is an interesting one as well, because Syndra LeBlanc not in a great spot right now, as we've been seeing in the last couple of days/weeks. You're removing AP options because, one, your top laner is AD, you have AD, of course, in the bottom lane, and a lot of the popular AP junglers are out of the picture as well. So things are going to look a little different. I'm wondering if TBA go for a tank angle of some kind, Malphite, Scion, something like that, so they can just stack armor, be unkillable, and it gives you that sort of engage that you were severely lacking. And Ornn also kind of fits the build.
I like Ornn better.
Engage, disengage. You have the extra scaling that his passive can give you at level 14.
Yep.
I think that ends up fitting just fine.
And I think that's why I prefer the Ornn in a situation like this, because at the end of the day, yes, a tank option is good, but they need more damage. TBA absolutely needs more damage, and at least Ornn is going to supply, you know, a longer fight, going to allow the brittle pop off, going to allow a lot. But on the other side, gosh, on the other side, honestly, all I can think of when I see so far these 4 lock-ins is oppression. That's what Fear is going for. And they have really good opportunities. They once again are putting Trickster on a high damage, high mobility champion. Very easy to, and I say easy because for Trickster, any champion is easy to aggress with early on. And the Azir, again, the consistent damage is absolutely there for Fear, and TBA needs something to be able to lock that down. They you know, I can't even say that they need more tank. They need more crowd control because they don't. They need more damage. They need straight damage. They need some sort of burst ability here to get a shutdown available towards early parts of the game. Hey, and I like it.
We talked about range, and that's something that has a lot of range. The Xerath, where it's like, I mean, it's good into the Azir. He's basically going to have a pretty hard time touching you. And in terms of team fights as well, as long as Robbie positions correctly, he should be in a lot of these situations in a safe spot where you can get your damage out, things like the Rite of the Arcane, your whole just plethora of magic damage abilities here. So that is an interesting switch up for TBA. They still have the same bot lane where it is the common answer into Senna Tahm Kench, but now you have different solo laners, a more cohesive team fight, and ability, I think, to play this game later on that was lacking in game 1.
I agree, because, I mean, like I said, I liked the Kalista Renata Glask. I really liked how Chuki's played that, the Renata. I mean, it wasn't maybe as impactful as the team would have liked it to be, but still it was played very well. And it was more the fact that there wasn't these engagement opportunities, really. These ultimates had to be utilized in a defensive manner. It had to be used to escape. And that's the last thing you really want to do towards the late game with somebody like Renata Glask. Having this long range and, again, this bursty damage is something that really needed to be added to this composition to make it work. And TBA once more is kind of in a position where they say, all right, if we fall back a little bit in the early parts of the game, we have this recoverability. But, again, I will keep talking about the amount of damage on the side of Fear. And is that sustainability on TBA enough to withstand that raw damage that's going to be coming out of Fear? We're going to have to see as we head into game number 2 in this best of 3 in the Proving Grounds Close Qualifiers semifinals.
You said it, Jolly. The best of 3 for Cincinnati Fear are 1-0. This is TBA's last chance. They want to at least fight for a chance to secure a date with 100 Thieves next in the finals tomorrow night. A lot of pressure. Different comp for TBA, different comp for Cincinnati Fear. And I mean, talking about theirs, Sketch is in that position where later on into the game, Cincinnati Fear's comp has a lot of scaling. You do still have that protection from the Tahm Kench with the Devour. I think that is a big deal here as well. It was so impactful, denying the value of the hostile takeover in game 1. And I think Cincinnati Fear, truthfully, in all the games I've seen from them so far, the games where they find a lot of success are ones where you can play for Sketch, where you can set him up, fight for and with him. And I think they have the chance to do that again here in game 2.
I certainly do, and they want to end this in a sweep, too. Nothing feels better than going into finals day, saying, yeah, yesterday was easy. Oh, semifinals? I'm sorry. Like, we were just prepping for today here. And for Team Pending, it's the exact opposite. They deserve to be here. They might have surprised us by being here, but I think the same can be said about Cincinnati Fear in the semifinals moving into the finals tomorrow. Look at that.
Wow.
You know what?
So it's more people for TBA,
More
interestingly
for TBA.
enough. It's probably maybe looking at the draft. They think, okay, there's a bit of a better opportunity. And I think another point of contention, too, is that this top lane, Dragoon, we highlight as Darius, and usually ends up playing pretty well in the tanks, as you can tell. Dragoon already pressuring Topo quite a bit. Will he also be snowballed? We're seeing Trickster path towards the top side of the map. Will show up there in about a minute and a half or so. And is it just going to be about snowballing Dragoon?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Dragoon can snowball himself. He's on Darius. He's so good at this champion, whether it's into a winning lane, a losing lane, whether this champion is completely off the face of the earth in terms of meta, it doesn't matter. Dragoon is going to pop off, and I think that that's just something that Topo has to acknowledge. I might not get a lot of interference from Kitsuo because that should probably be placed towards Robbie Bob and Masu at the end of the day going into a later game. So, hey, Topo, up against Dragoon's one trick, you just got to try to survive and take as little damage as possible. In the meantime, see if Team Pending can get the pressure that they're looking for, and it looks like it's working out quite well in the bottom lane.
So far, is, he said, Sketch and Plux receiving less early attention. Well, it's the opposite for Team Pending. You said it, Topo is pretty alone on the top side and will be probably for a bit here. Ultimately, the value that Ornn is going to give is great, though, so even if he does fall a bit behind, it's honestly not that deep for the side of Team Pending here.
It's sorry, Topo. You know what you have to go through, right?
It's just top lane, you know? Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Chickies. Nice little pickup right there. And in fact, we've even got Kitsuo quite deep in the enemy jungle. It's more of a reflection based on where we can see Dragoon is just hassling Topo here onto the top side. Robbie Bob taking quite a bit of damage too. And this is also a champion that you have to watch out for your mana usage in the early parts of the game. It's very easy to say, hey, I'm just going to Arcano Pulse every opportunity that I get. But while it deals a lot of damage, it absorbs a lot of your ability to throw out abilities.
Speaking of right now, Kitsuo has foregone going for his Krugs, instead trying to deny that Hunter's Mark that has spawned on the top side. And he is actually going to successfully do so while Trickster has stolen his Krugs. Oh, Trickster has to flash.
Yeah, Trickster has got to flash. That was... I think you can see it in Trickster's eyes. It's like, maybe Kitsuo will be scared. And Kitsuo's absolutely not in a situation. Maybe Kitsuo won't know that he can easily take me here. And yeah, that's not something that you can expect. The mind games, sorry, Trickster, I know it falls in line with your name, but it's not going to work on somebody like Kitsuo.
No, it's not. So far, no kills. Did you get the flash? You have Kitsuo finding this opportunity.
And that is another flash coming out of Sketch. Blaze just used the teleport to get back into the mid lane. So no opportunity there for Azir to pop his face down below. But a flash is all they needed to get out of Sketch to make that a successful appearance there in the bottom lane.
All right, that's something you can be happy about. And I think the thing to worry about for Kitsuo, if you're a TBA or a TBA fan, is how part of how he fell behind was not enough focus on clearing. And honestly, kind of inefficient pathing. This time around, it looks like he's looking to focusing on farming just a little bit more, not spending too much time in lane. I think that's already a decent start for him as well, because falling behind a Kindred is also, that just feels terrible.
It really does. That is, and again, Trickster is the last kind of player that you want to be on somebody like Kindred and having some momentum in their favor. And I think the realization is there from Kitsuo, which is why we've seen him show up in lane so many times, because as this Kindred, you have to spend more time in the jungle. You have to invest a little bit more in gathering some experience, gathering some gold, trying to lock down parts of an item before you can really show your face. And I like that recognition coming out of Kitsuo.
You have Kitsuo has sort of an angle. Actually, is moving up towards the mid lane just to make sure nothing happens to Robbie. He doesn't actually go for that bot play either. He's just moving towards his Raptors because of the position his wave is shoved in. He's just trying to defend his camps, make sure Trickster isn't able to really steal any more than he already has from him here. Again, part of how he fell behind in the last game, using a lot of his camps. Counter jungling, not farming very well. At least this time around, he's trying to prevent that from happening.
And you do feel better if you're Team Pending or a fan of this team already, because again, the pressure in game number 1, Cincinnati Fear had pressure in literally every single lane. Sure, that means that it makes it a situation where Kitsuo's like, awesome, I can go into any lane and try to find a feast here, but at the same time, you know that the pressure and the ability to get a lot of damage is in the favor of that team that is pushing forward, right? The team that has priority in these lanes. In the bottom lane, which Team Pending was very close to building up to feeding in game number 1 to actually getting to the point and making a big difference in these lanes. it's looking a lot more promising right now. It's kind of like the exact same composition that they had, honestly, going into game number 1, but just more thought out, more fleshed out, a little bit more cohesion within that, I think.
Now, compared to before, first dragon still untouched, approaching that 8-minute mark. Doesn't look like anybody is interested in it just yet. It's worth noting, even though Kitsuo is farming a little better in game 2, he's still behind in XP. We just saw Trickster tick over to 6. You have the Lamb's Respite available and ready to go for when these team fights happen, but no access to that Cyclone. It could give Fear an opening. Go for Dragon. They really want to, but they're in a position where they're honestly, they don't really care about Dragon stacking that much. They scale just fine into the later parts of the game. They're just happy moving around the map, making sure Team Pending can't snowball and just farm away.
And that means it's more of their opportunity for Cincinnati Fear to make a move on something like this Rift Herald, because they also know Team Pending has had pressure in the bottom lane. They've had pressure in the mid lane for a good portion of this game. That's probably going to be their area of expertise, their area of opportunity when they maintain this pressure. And with somebody like Masu on this Kalista, who's able to have priority on stacking up this creep score like she already has, been doing an exceptional job of that, 75 right now, compared to Tom Kench, who's quite difficult to try to layer that on. They're going to make a move on the Dragon. Easy peasy, no squeezy. And again, just like I said, Trickster says, cool. That means I get Shelly.
Yeah, Kitsuo will have the opportunity to steal away some camps as well. Because you got the shout that the Herald has been taken on that top side. But ultimately, Herald is going to be pretty big for Fear to be able to snowball their way into this game and to a 2-0, which is what they are looking to do here. Now you have that Herald to easily drop it topside, use it so that you can threaten to break this turret and get Dragoon out of lane, essentially, end that laning phase so that he can start participating in these skirmishes, these team fights. Because when you look at some members of Team Pending, Kitsuo, melee, Darius is fine with that. Masu, Kalista, low range. Darius loves that. He wishes you would be in your auto attack range.
It's true. It's just another reason that Dragoon says, yes, please, and thank you for giving me this Darius that was banned out in that game number 1. Of course, it was swapped for the respect ban of the Talia, which absolutely makes sense. Can Trickster pop off as he was anticipating, though? Nice little recognition there that the clone has been used. Trickster still has the mobility, able to continue on with this fight. The W down for Kitsuo. That's going to force the flash away. And that's all it takes for Trickster to come out with a smile on his face.
Yeah, that's a big win. You end up... I like that he waited, too, to make sure that Kitsuo felt safe going for the Scuttle Crab, and it ends up resulting in the flash. So he's just going to go back to farming. No Scuttle Crab for him. And at this point, it's just about trying to see where this Herald's going to drop. You want to try and respond. Robbie Bob in trouble.
It was a nicely timed flash right there by Robbie Bob. It was right as Sketch threw out the Dawning Shadow, meaning it had really no effect at all. So the ultimate down from that ADC player. Pluck's going to get shoved back a little bit, but has been able to build a little bit of armor to sustain this lane on his own. And I love to see a Sketch roam.
Right. No actual opening for a dive as that wave is play rather. The wave is shoved in and Masu is able to just back up. But you do get some deep vision down. Get a bit of information on where Kitsuo might show up, and now they know they have vision. He's on this bottom side of the map. Off this reset, you can easily just see Trickster path towards the top lane, drop that Rift Herald that's going to be expiring pretty soon. Because again, Dragoon, I think, what is that? Still 5 plates on that top turret, but all it takes is 1 successful dive, and you can take all 5 just like that.
It's true. There's a lot of damage that Dragoon has available for himself, especially since we are getting a lot of roam coming out of Sketch. Has gotten the recall, maybe looking for a pinching play here, as we can see Blaze and Trickster both in the wings. Kitsuo does not get caught out by that last embrace, but will end up taking a lot of damage here. The flash not available. The Cyclone comes through. Robbie Bob gonna throw the ultimate down on top of it. Will Trickster be able to have enough damage? Kitsuo looking for the kill there.
The patience.
Sketch. It's not quite enough. The kill gets picked up here. It is the first blood and a double, or 2 kills going over to Cincinnati Fear.
Wow, and that was one, I think, such a good catch out from Cincinnati Fear, and great patience from Trickster to hold on to that Lamb's Respite to make sure Kitsuo wouldn't actually be able to survive. He falls. Ends up being a big play for Cincinnati Fear. No Herald, This Trickster ended up falling in the process anyway. So that actually might expire pretty soon. He's probably going to end up dropping that in an awkward place. But you're still happy with that fight. Getting a kill onto Trickster, onto Blaze. 2 players who are going to be doing a lot of damage in these later fights.
That was, you know, some of the first kills of the game. The first kills of the game. We saw a Dragon and a Herald go down before a member of either of these teams went down. But now the aggression is up. Dragoon looking for something here. He's going to end up running into multiple members. That's 4 members. He manages to flash away from this one. In comes Call the Forge God, though. Dragoon is the target. They're not going to let him get away from this one. And he will end up going down after using both of his summoner spells. In the meantime, Sketch has to get the heck out of here. He's going to flash forward. Barely dodges one. The Arcano as well. But Kitsuo is going to be able to find the E, the jump forward, and Team Pending have got themselves some momentum.
Wow, so that ends up being a nice roam from the bot lane of Team Pending to, one, show mid lane because they've got such a tremendous lead on the bot side, and it ends up being just in time, Jolly. As a play from Dragoon, both stones gone, ends up going a little too far.
Ooh! No way! Robbie actually doesn't take the damage from the tower, ends up trying to turn it, does manage to get the lockdown. Now Plux is on the run. Still able to keep this tower alive. Kitsuo looking for the initiation. Plux, just barely staying far enough back to avoid getting hit by Chukis there as well to reset the recall.
They're going to let that one go, but that information means it's easy for Kitsuo to go ahead and start the Dragon. Nice little pun
Shurima
on the life side, that's right.
Yep,
So,
Shurima shuffling.
Team Pending able to secure their second Drake, but I mean, we've seen this movie before, Jolly. They got the first 2 in game 1, and they lost every single one after that. And with them starting to fall a little behind, you are a little worried if you're a fan of TBA.
Just a little bit behind, though. You know, this game has really slowed down, I would say. Again, the kills not stacking up. At this point in the game, game number 1, I mean, we were looking at almost double the kills that we currently have on board. So a little bit of trepidation kind of being held between both of these teams. Team Pending recognizing this could be it, the final game in this best of 3, and Cincinnati Fear recognizing that they don't want to see a game 3. Sketch almost finding out the recall right there. It's going to work out just fine for Kitsuo.
All right, Ocean Soul, a big buff that Team Pending would love to continue playing for here. So continuing focus on that side of the map going to be very important for this squad. And it's worth noting too, like Topo has been honestly holding things down on the top side. Even though he's down like maybe 20 CS, like it's Orin into Darius. This is honestly the best you could have hoped for here. And we've seen the impact he's able to have in some of these skirmishes with that ultimate. That value will continue to be there. Team Pending, not necessarily in the dirt just yet. Dragoon, trying to be annoying, but Anathemas is honestly pretty base purchase.
Yep, that's true. And Dragoon also has to have a certain level of respect now, as we can see. That second Rift Herald picked up once again by Fear. That means both of those have gone in favor of Fear. Kitsuo should be able to get away with that, or from that one, with his clone. Still, such a close game. Team Pending is finding a lot of these, small successes for themselves. Cincinnati Fear, they're looking for the picks. They're looking for the fights. They're looking for these kills. Whereas Team Pending has more of an overview, I think, of this game right now, and the recognition that, man, this Drake would really help if they're able to get the soul for themselves and push this out as long as possible. The Zip Abyssal Dive coming through. It's the ultimate in response from Renata Glass, though. It only hits Plux, who's able to absorb a lot of this damage. Masu trying to be the front line on this. Chuki's taking quite a bit. That is a Sketch. Might have to swap over. It's still focused onto Masu here, and Plux has to use the Devour. Will not keep Plux alive, though, or keep Sketch alive. Sketch likely going to go down. The Dawning Shadow does come out, but doesn't provide enough damage. Team Pending find themselves another successful fight. The ultimate to come out. No way, Trickster stays alive. The Lamb's Respite coming through at the last moment just to ensure the Trickster does not go down.
That's big, Robbie. We saw off screen that he was forced to flash, but he manages to avoid the play, limit the value of the Rift Herald, so you do get a response play as Cincinnati Fear. You get that mid-tier one down, and since they couldn't hold it till the dragon spawns, you might as well get it as soon as you have the opening. But a double for Kitsuo. It's also much-needed gold back into Team Pending's pocket, since Cincinnati Fear have been kind of pulling ahead. We got a teleport, though. Oh, Robbie says no thank you. Can't take these Krugs.
Oh, he's gotta dodge it. Trickster trying to do so much damage. No way. take. Blaze, you can't get there in time. And it's this overextension from Cincinnati Fear that is continuing to just add free nails to their own coffin that Team Pending is able to hammer in.
Right, and these are much needed kills. Much needed breathing room for Team Pending. Of course, Cincinnati Fear, they're still in a position where, I mean, even if you're down 1k, you still have things like the Kindred, like the Azir, the Senna, who you favor quite a bit in terms of these longer fights. Team Pending, though, we're seeing examples of it. They're looking to burst. They're looking to isolate someone with picks, like you said. If they get any bit of CC on you, they will chain it. They will take you out of the picture here. And that's how they get these numbers advantages in some of the skirmishes that they've been going for. And that's honestly what they have to keep doing here, even though they have this lead for themselves.
Yeah. It is still matched objectives, right? We're looking at a 1-to-1 tower. Team Pending does tend to have the lead on that, at least the timing, being the team that will topple that first. But the response by Cincinnati Fear is still there. And like you said, the late game ability for this team right now, we're talking Blaze, we're talking Sketch, we're talking Trickster. There's a lot available as time ticks down for Cincinnati Fear. However, Team Pending, if they can just continue to shut these members down, they're not going to have an impact in the later game.
Oh, Kitsuo.
There it is, Kitsuo, a huge one. Sketch with the flash in. Out comes the ultimate from Blaze, who's going to have to flash away himself. There it is, a lot of members berserk, but Trickster's going to be able to pick up the one. Dragoon, the next target here, flashing away from the ultimate on.
Right to the arcane.
That's going to supply one, that's going to supply another. It's Kitsuo who finds one. The last shot of right of the arcane is going to do some solid damage to Sketch, but both Plux and Sketch stay alive. The important members go down in Dragoon and Trickster, though.
And that's the big thing here for Team Pending. And I was literally, before that fight started, going to say how the way Team Pending wins these out is starting fights on their terms, because they have so many ways to pull the trigger. And you're making Cincinnati Fear use their big team fight tools in inopportune ways. And we're seeing examples of why it doesn't work out for them right here.
Drake still goes over to Team Pending. Dragon Soul right now.
Oh, they're sending it.
A lot of damage coming out of Kitsuo. Blaze gets everybody down so low. Will it be enough? Sketch manages to pick the one up, but gets locked down immediately after by Robbie Bob, who picks up a double kill for himself, sitting at 5, 1, and 3.
And this is big. Not only do you win this fight and pick up a lot of these kills, putting someone like Robbie Bob at 5 and 1, you got the third Drake. Team Pending are at Ocean Soul Point. And this is perfect timing too, because you get that opportunity. Use that Arcane Trickster over the wall. And again, things like the Emperor's Divide, which have been so big in the team fights that Cincinnati Fear start, are forced out. And not only that, Fear aren't ready to receive these engages. Flux only has one Devour. He can't save everybody. And because of that, you get the fight you want. You also get the Dragon. Fear, they don't want Soul Point to come through, but they don't really have a choice at this point. And even though they trade kills, TBA, very happy with how this turned out.
And this is kind of a situation reminiscent of game number 1, but on the opposite side. Robbie Bob is to the point where you just can't allow this extra room. He is fed, just like the Talia in the last game. He's got the mobility. He's also got the long-range damage and the crowd control necessary to keep himself safe, especially with somebody like Topo as this Ornn on the front side, like Kitsuo, who's going to be the engagers for this team. And as we take a look at the gold lead over time, we can see that it didn't even hit 1,500 in favor of Cincinnati Fear. It's now dipped a bit more than that into the favor of Team Pending, but a very close game nonetheless.
It is, and now, Robbie, a little bit of trouble.
A lot of damage that Robbie Bob can deal, but Blaze, Trickster, and Sketch can provide much more than that. So, favor in terms of these towers has swayed over to Cincinnati Fear, taking down an extra.
And not only that, you get a big shutdown. Robbie Bob had there, on to Trickster, who again, really strong pick here in the Kindred, and you're in a position where you can start threatening this tier 2. You have a lot of people on the move. Worth noting, Topo is TP, Dragoon has the Ghost. If you are caught unawares, you're in a lot of trouble.
It's a smart move by Cincinnati Fear to jump off as quickly as they did. That is going to be the passive coming out as well. And oh my god, the hostile takeover hits 3 members here. Kitsuo going to utilize
another
Trickster's
teleport.
Ultimate, the Lamb's Respite coming through, and it's a lot onto Kitsuo, who will get taken down in response. It's 1 for 1 for 1 for 1 as Masu is able to find one for himself. Sketch on the backside takes down Kitsuo. Plux has a little bit of this power, or this passive left in the tower, but it will not be enough. Too much frontline on the side of Team Pending. And in the meantime, Dragoon should be able to find a tower on the bot side to make up for things.
And that's a big punish. You're overextending your Cincinnati Fear, because you should know Topo can join the fight and Dragoon cannot. As soon as Dragoon shows on the wave and the angle is there, Topo says, yes, sir, let's do it. And that not only manages to secure you a big team fight win, but also with Blaze not having teleport, you can go ahead and start the Baron. Who's going to do anything about it? Dragoon, he's on the other side of the map. You don't even need Smite.
Yep. And of course, no teleport there, so Dragoon does what he can. He says, hey, I'll take up some of this enemy jungle camp. It was pretty close right there for Topo and being quite low there, but my goodness, Team Pending has really got a grip on what they can take for themselves, and it's recovering from some of these mistakes that Cincinnati Fear is making. Let's see if Blaze can actually follow up on this one. It should be enough. There it is. It should be enough from those members. The ultimate as well. Emperor's Divide going to come out to kind of negate the Cyclone that comes through from Kitsuo.
A really nice catch out. It is 30 seconds without your mid laner, and it is one less Baron buff. Realistically, probably is going to group, so the big value is just taking him off of the map and kind of limiting the value of the Baron power play. But overall, Team Pending finding themselves still in control of this game here. Still able to fight, take control, and find these engagements that they are looking for here. And that, Farsight. Yep, Blaze immediately has to get out of dodge.
You do have to be scared if you're Team Pending, and how much focus has been on Robbie Bob for the last little bit, who hadn't gone down for the early parts of the game, was certainly stacking up on this damage, and now is sitting at 6-3 and 5. Of course, still sitting pretty, right? But Cincinnati Fear has recognized this is a player that we need to shut down. We cannot let him group up. We cannot let him get to the backside of one of these team fights where Topo and Kitsuo are on the front line there. And the fact that they have maintained vision on him and continued to focus pressure onto him means that Cincinnati Fear still okay, but this is not a good situation for them. Call the Forge God is going to knock up two members. That means Flux will be the first one to go down. Sketch does manage to throw out the Dawning Shadow. It does quite a bit of damage, but it's not going to be enough. The rest of the team, Cincinnati Fear, is not here. They finally group themselves together in front of this Dragon Pit, but is it too little too late? Team Pending looking to follow this one up. Sketch trying to get into a good position. Try to break apart the rest of this fight. The Dragon's going to go over to Cincinnati Fear, but can they get over the wall? It's the flash that is used, the Hex Splash. Trickster trying to run away. In comes right of the Arcade once more. One more shot is all it's going to take. The Ignite on top of it onto Trickster. That's one member down. Trickster manages to barely make it out alive.
And only the only saving grace for Cincinnati Fear is the fact that they do secure this Dragon. It costs them their 80 carry, but you do prevent the Dragon Soul from coming through. Problem is, Team Pending, great fight still in their favor, and they're going to be able to really, at the tail end of this Baron buff, make use of it, because that's two turrets they're going to go. They could easily go for a third, but they are going to back off and just look for that reset while they still have those empowered recalls. Still, Cincinnati Fear clinging on for dear life.
And that's enough, you know? I mean, clinging on, they're only 3k behind. And this Baron power play was at, 3,100, 3,200, so they're able to at least somewhat minimize that, negate a little bit of the advantage that Team Pending has given themselves. And I think that's really something to be said about a lot of amateur teams and teams that we're watching, especially ones that, are, I can't say newer rosters, of course, but maybe even falling under newer names, and that is the case for both of these teams. But the adaptability, the ability to stay in a game that is really moving uphill for you is something that Cincinnati Fear has not really let, I guess, affect their mental.
No, which is really important if they want a chance at still winning things out and closing the series 2-0. And I like what we're seeing, how you send Blaze to the other side of the map, keep that one pushed in and force someone to answer, but forcing the bulk of your members on this bottom side, because if you're Cincinnati Fear, no more mistakes. You can't let this Dragon Soul go through. The Ocean Dragon is just too powerful. Of course, is widely agreed as one of the strongest ones, so they have to control vision. They have to make it so Team Pending, not only can you want to avoid them getting there first, you also want to be able to try and have vision so the Team Pending can't surprise you with the way they've been playing some of these fights, whether it's Kitsuo over the wall, whether it's Topo TPing at a perfect moment to be able to set things up with that call of the Forge God.
It's true, and funny enough, there are only a few things that should really be surprising. Yes, Kitsuo coming in using the clone. The rest of it, is pretty obvious. And there are some tricky plays that are available in the pockets of Cincinnati Fear. And I'm not going to lie, I am quite surprised at how well Dragoon might have done in the lane. It hasn't quite translated over to the latter parts of this game, and a lot of that has to do with team pending and the great composition that they have. Oh my god. Masu says, all right, all I need is an ultimate, and the damage is there. Look at how much Blaze is going to take, and it doesn't matter. Throws out the Emperor's Survive. I mean, that was just kind of a scared reaction, I feel, from Blaze. That's not a position that you need to be in if you're Cincinnati Fear. And now Plux is going to get aggressed on here as Team Pending is breaking into the base of Cincinnati Fear. That is an inhibitor tower down. That is an inhibitor down, and that should be enough for Team Pending to walk away happy.
And I like it. Topo immediately TPs in once the angle is there. They're going to be able to take another turret. Probably not threaten unless... Oh, my God.
They're getting pretty aggro. These are confident plays. I mean, Chuki's right there saying, hey, maybe I can do something. No, I have to flash out.
Actually.
You got pulled. He flashed out away from that when Trickster looking for something gets locked down here. Does not want to have to use the Lamb's Respite just yet. Dragoon is on the front side. Kitsuo will like to go down. Oh, wow. And there it is. Sketch able to pick that one up. That means the Cincinnati Fear can continue on the run here. Team Pending has to reset. We can see the teleport come through from Blaze. Try to push out this mid lane in response.
That's brutal. You want to walk away as soon as you can. There's still 30 seconds on Kitsuo, and Baron is up very soon. So this is a big opening for Cincinnati Fear, and I like this. Even if you don't get the kills, you're stopping the backs, and you're making it so that you can't spend any of the gold that you just earned in the last minute and a half. So you're actually even or maybe slightly down, but they still don't want to let this Baron go through.
That's a lot of damage on the front side here for Plux and Dragoon. Blaze trying to go to the backside, catch out Topo, get a little bit of a distraction. The Dawning Shadow comes out. Call the Forge God pops up. 2 members right there. It's a nice hostile takeover on top of it, and out comes the right of the arcade. It's going to be plenty. Topo flashing forward to continue the aggression. Dragoon stalling that one up, using his E, and on the backside, Sketch has found some solid damage here, but it's not going to be enough. It's a quadra kill for Masu.
And that's such a big fight. Team Pending 4 versus 5, Jolly. Make it happen. The TPs are coming through along with the Super Minions. We're going to Game 3. We're getting the series you wanted.
I knew it. I manifested it.
You knew it.
I did. I manifested it. I had a feeling already. As much as I was saying Cincinnati Fear can take this series, I knew it was not going to be a 2-0, and Team Pending are just going to reinforce that one. It looked like they were running back a composition that I wasn't incredibly comfortable with, but the couple of changes that it made towards the end of the draft were pivotal, and we saw that come into play right there. They needed the damage. They got the damage beat down.
And it was good thinking, too, looking at the draft the TVA went for in that second game. You leave the Darius up. You know Dragoon is going to go for that more likely than not, and that they will continue to try and pinch out Robbie Bob's champion pool. Again, removing Corki Vigar in the second rotation of the pick and ban phase there in this game. And it ends up being perfect. All right, well, we're going to not blind Ornn. We're going to pick Ornn, and Topo had a great performance on it. Really came in big in these team fights, really marking people like Blaze so that he can't actually participate when TBA start the fights the way that they wanted to, because that was so crucial for them in this game.
Well, the red side, it ended up working out for them, right? We had these slight concerns. We're seeing the same first few picks. We're seeing the same side selection, the same exact bans, but they managed to make it work in their favor. They got inside the heads of Cincinnati Fear, and it worked out. And like you said, that means we get a full series. That means we get to go to a game number 3, but it also means that you guys have an opportunity to go fill up your drinks, go grab some snacks. We are going to take a very quick break before checking in with the analyst desk and hopping into game number 3 in this best of 3 series between Cincinnati Fear and, of course, TBA.